last game Saturday against La Crosse Central. That was the first time we beat a La Crosse Central team since I think it was 2013. So we're making steps in the right direction, but we got a long way to go.
Well, let's talk about some things that you're seeing on the floor right now that have impressed you so far this year.
We can play. We've proven that we can play multiple different ways. We've got a lot of size this year, which is something that we haven't had in the past. We've also had good guard play. There are times when we want to create more possessions for ourselves because we do have a lot of skill and talent offensively. Sometimes we got a little too fast for ourselves, live ball turnovers leading to points the other way. But we're very comfortable in playing multiple ways, and I think that's what's very encouraging about our team right now.
And many fans know you have a very good ball player in guard Brooks Hinson back for his junior year. Tell us what it's like to have him on the floor with this combination of ball players.
Yeah, I don't know if there's I can never say too many good things about Brooks. He is a very talented player. Very fortunate I get to be able to coach him. Every year he's taken steps and strides into his improvement. As a freshman, he started for us, but he was more of a spacer. He was more of a knockdown shooter. Last year as a sophomore, he kind of stepped up, took over more of the ball handling duties, but also took some strides defensively where he's guarding better players. This year, he's now at the top of every opponent's scouting report. I think when teams prepare to defend us, they have to figure out a way to stop Brooks. The way I feel coaching him is if he's on our bus, we're always going to have a chance no matter who we play. He is a very, very talented player, and I'm looking forward. There are times as a coach, my insecurities pop up because I'm not. Sometimes I think he deserves a better coach because he's always hungry for more information, and it's a challenge for me in improving my skill as a coach to give him and feed him more information because he wants to be coach, he wants to learn, he wants to improve, and he makes me a better coach.
Coach, despite the talent you have on your team, you have a rather inexperienced team, only three seniors on this team. So having Brooks on the roster, on the floor, how does that help your ball club with some of these inexperienced ball players?
Yeah, even with our seniors there, for the majority of them, they were on our JV team last year, and we're only really returning 3 guys that had significant varsity experience. One of those, and Chris Pohl, was only up for a half a year for us. So with Brooks Hinson, Landon Lee, and Chris Pohl, we're kind of relying on those guys to motivate their teammates that we have to get used to the speed and the physicality of the varsity play because it just is, it's different. There's no other way to gain that experience other than you try to make your practices really competitive. And Brooks and Landon and Chris are 3 of the most competitive guys that we've got. So we're relying on them to make sure that our practices are competitive and physical and fast so we can then translate that to the floor.
If you would, tell us about some other young men on your ball club this year.
Well, outside of Brooks, Landon, and Chris, the 3 seniors that we've got, and I'm going to say this a lot because they mean a lot to me. Max Ortel, Noah Daniels, Brant Fries. Those 3 guys were 8th graders when our staff took over, and it was right in the middle of COVID, and there was a lot of things, a lot of circumstances outside of their control, and at that time, I remember our first practice we had with those guys when they were 8th graders. We were outside at the Marshfield Middle School because of COVID restrictions, and we had to organize our practice in a different way, different than, nobody's really ever seen that. And they're the 3 that are left. We had a nice group of freshmen at the time, or 8th graders, but for a lot of reasons, they're the only 3 that are left. And those 3 guys mean a lot to me. They are the epitome of what we want in a student athlete. They're low maintenance. They're always on time, and they're always ready to go. So those 3 guys, we're going to lean on them as our seniors.
How about some of the juniors on this year's team?
Yeah, outside of Brooks and Landon, we've got 6 more, and I hope I can remember them all because I know if I miss one, I'm going to hear about it tomorrow. J.J. Steinbach, Jack Sternitsky, Joey Ketterer, Magnus Mockton, Ethan Connect, and Afton Hamill. Those 6 guys, along with their teammates, they make it very enjoyable for me to come to practice. Those guys are gym rats. They love to play. In the off season, when we're not, conducting our activities, they're always looking for a game wherever that may be. And they're a very, very enjoyable group, and they're very, very coachable, which makes it much more fun.
You have, as you mentioned, great size on this year's team, probably the biggest team ever at Marshfield High School. And the way the game is structured today, guys like Chris Pohl and Valen Ramberg can play facing the basket and do some things away from the basket. But the presence of Ethan Connect as more or less a post-type play. Now, he does take a couple of threes.
Yes, he has. He's worked hard
every once in a while. He can play out there, but really his game is down low. So tell us about the he has, assuming that role for you, your ball club, and not forcing someone else to play that position.
So one of the things that Ethan in particular does very, very well is he runs the floor very well. He got a couple of early buckets against Appleton East just because he ran to the rim and beat everyone down the floor. Ethan plays with a lot of energy, and the guy that has the most energy. So between those three particular guys that you just mentioned, including Magnus Mockton, who's about 6'4", 6'5", we do have to alter how we want to play our 5-out motion offense a little bit to see if we can get them some more post touches. We've had a couple matchups early against Rapids and Holman that were primarily 5 guards, 6'2" and under. And with those types of teams where they're switching, fronting posts, we've got to figure out different ways to utilize those guys. It can be a challenge at times, but that's what makes it fun. And on the flip side of that, we're starting to guard those guys better on the perimeter. Ethan, Chris, Valen, those guys, Magnus, they never really had to guard perimeter guys before, and now we're seeing some growth and improvement in that area as well.
I would think that Brooks Hinson would be very pleased with the presence of Landon Lee on the floor, because that means Brooks does not have to be the point guard all the time. So tell us what Landon is and how he helps your ball club.
It's very enjoyable to get to coach the tandem of those two guys because they play so well off each other. They've been playing together for multiple years now. They've got that teammate being in sync with one another. They know what they're going to do before they do it. Landon, little trouble the first 2 games against Appleton East and Holman, got in some foul trouble. He didn't play well those first 2 games, and he'll be the first to admit it. But he played really well against Rapids. He played very well against La Crosse Central. It is a luxury to have either of those 2 guys initiate the offense. We get a rebound or they get a rebound, and they can push it where we don't have to look for that one guy. So it is a luxury to have those 2.
And as you mentioned, a couple of sophomores making big contributions as well.
Yeah, Valen Ramberg and Chris Pohl, they're special talents. They're very skilled big men, both at about 6'5" or taller. I think Chris might be about 6'6" or 6'7" right now. And those guys can play in a multitude of ways. They both have the ability to knock down the 3, which is what we love, which is what we coach. They also have the ability to take a smaller defender down on the low block and work with their back to the basket. So really, really excited about the next 3 years with those 2.
Let's bring in Larry Hazer for some comments and questions. Larry?
Yeah, you talked about it. You might have touched on it a little bit about the inexperience of your team this year and the height and all that and multiple ways being able to win. Are the young guys accepting that multiple ways? I know you
sometimes
touched on it a little bit there.
it's especially with a younger player, you've got to coach some things out of them that they may have picked up either through so much that in the offseason, they play so many games, right? AAU, they play so many games. You're playing 7 games in a weekend, but you only get to practice 1 time. So a lot of times in those 7 games, you pick up maybe some bad habits. Could just be little things like footwork or shot selection or inability to guard a certain player. So early on, we've got to coach those things out of them in the beginning. We got to coach them to how we want them to play, and that there is a learning curve there. I'm very fortunate that I've got a great coaching staff. And when guys get through our entire 3 levels of our program, from the freshman AV to the varsity, they've got some time. Tanner Boson, Josh Roshite, Jake Shepler, Brian Fravert, all fantastic guys that we're lucky to have on our staff. They're all Marshfield alumni. So it means a lot to all 5 of us that we get to be able to coach at our own school.
All right. See, we're running low on time.
Well, Coach, thanks for coming by. Once again, a big ball game for you guys on Friday night with DC Everest in town.
Yes, DC Everest is playing very, very well right now. They had a big win against Medford last night, beat Wausau East at Wausau East on last Friday, so we've got our hands full coming up Friday night.
Okay, well, Coach, good luck this season. We'll see you throughout the year.
Thanks, Gene. Thanks, Larry. Roll Tigers.
Marshfield Tiger basketball coach Chris Fisher with us. The Tigers off to a great start this year. Once again, back in action Friday night at home against DC Everest. Back with more of our boys basketball preview program following these messages.
High school sports is being brought to you courtesy of...
I had an employee at once ask me to prioritize family, faith, and business, and I put them in that order in particular. For each one of our employees, it's family first. You do what is best for you and your family. Then the rest of it will take care of itself. It's about making sure you make the best decisions for you and your family.
Good day, my name is Ken Hyman and welcome to Nasonville Dairy here in central Wisconsin, Marshfield, Wisconsin as a matter of fact. We make a lot of different cheeses. We make cheddar, Colby, Monterey, Farmer's Cheese, Peach Cheese, Quesa Blanca, Quesa de Fear, Seco, Parm, Romano, Asiago, Fontina, Feta Caseri, Cafetieri, Cafla Graviera, 20 different flavors of Monterey, as well as making Edam, Gouda, and Munster. And the cheese be with you.
Let your job journey begin at Express Employment Professionals. Find hundreds of employers looking for a candidate like you, all in one place at one time. And let Express Employment help connect you with your future career. With locations in Stevens Point, Wausau, Marshfield, and Medford, you'll find local jobs right in your community, including direct hire and evaluation to hire opportunities. Express Employment specializes in light industrial, skilled trades, professional, and office careers. Begin your job journey today with Express Employment Professionals at expresspros.com.
As well as ZaleskySports.com. With Larry Hazer and Jason Zaleski, I'm Gene Delisio at Nut Steep 2 on South Central Avenue in Marshfield, visiting with boys basketball coaches from our area about their seasons. Up next is the Pittsville boys basketball coach, Mark Denniston. Coach, thanks for joining us and thanks for coming by this evening.
Pleasure, Gene. Thank you.
And to tell us about the start of your season, how things look for this Pittsville Ball Club this year.
Well, we're off to a 2-3 start. We're, I guess you might say, a little bit inexperienced, kind of trying to find our way a little. We're having to maybe play a little different style than we played. We don't really have a lot of size. In the last, several years that I've coached, we've always had a true post player, and I don't know that we have that this year. So we're still kind of finding out how we can play offense and how we can score some points. But the guys that I have are great guys. They're trying really hard. They're doing everything we ask of them. And so I think it's going to be just maybe a case we have to be a little patient and watch how they develop. But I think that they have certainly the ability to develop into a fine team.
A lot of coaches don't have a post player anymore, so I guess a lot of teams are going that route, and so really nothing too difficult or too different for your ball club this year.
Yeah, I think that, like you said, that is certainly the trend in all levels of basketball, is kind of that positionless basketball. But I guess maybe I'm a little bit old school in the fact that I do kind of still like to have a post player. I think it's nice when you can play through your post and maybe once in a while get those easy inside baskets. But it does open up some other things. I think we do have 5 guys that can shoot it from outside, so it does make you sometimes a little bit tougher to guard. On the defensive end, when you don't have that size too, then, you have to make sure that you rebound, and that's something that we talk about every week, every game. That's kind of one of our keys, is to make sure we rebound. And, we're going to have a challenge coming up as we play some of the bigger teams in our conference. But, our guys, they battle, and, they'll do their best to position themselves well in that regard.
Well, fill us in on some of your ball players this year and where they fit in for your ball club.
Sure. We have 3 seniors on the team. Jay Cardinger is kind of our leader. He started last year, and then this year kind of has taken another step forward for us. Showed a lot of leadership over the summer, I thought, with a young group. and he's kind of a wing player, does a lot of stuff for our team. Braden Friday is a guy that has endured some injuries throughout his career. He played as a freshman, and then he missed some time he missed his whole sophomore year and some time his junior year with a foot injury. He's back this year, and you know, he's kind of taken on a new role. Braden's a pretty strong kid, so he's having to play a little bit more closer to the basket and you know, defending the post a little bit defensively. And then Derek Grossman's our third senior. He comes in off the bench and provides little guard relief for us. Derek's another kid that you know, just plays really hard, does everything we ask of him. And then a couple of juniors that start for us. Logan Zickert. You know, if you follow baseball, you probably know Logan's a pretty good baseball player and pitches for our team. Does a really nice job. But he's a pretty good basketball player too. He's a little bit longer, lankier guard. He can create a little trouble defensively sometimes for other teams. And the nice thing about Logan is he's pretty aggressive and can get to the rim as well. One of our other juniors then, Ben Friday. He's new to the varsity, as is Logan. They were JV players last year. Ben is a little bigger. He's probably our biggest guy, but yet he shoots it pretty well from outside, so he can do a little inside-outside. Ben, I think, you know, as he continues to get used to varsity, is developing some, hopefully a little more aggressiveness and kind of like acclimating to the speed of the varsity game. And then our last starter is a sophomore, Dawson Luther. Again, outstanding baseball player, just really good all-around athlete. He was a very good football player too. But Dawson's somebody that he might be our most athletic guy overall, and certainly provides a spark in that regard, where he can do some things with the ball and get to the rim when he needs to.
You know, you mentioned a lot of guys there, Coach, who've had good success in other sports. Is that helpful for your basketball team?
I like to think so. You know, we encourage our guys to be part of, you know, if they can be 3 sports. You know, and I think the more times that you're in those situations where you have to compete and lay it on the line, I think it just makes you better for all sports and really all phases of life when you have to be put in a stressful situation and produce.
Any areas where you think this ball club might be especially strong this year?
Well, I think that, you know, one of the things that hopefully, you know, we do a little bit now and continue to get better at would be the fact that we can space the floor a little bit. I think one thing that, you know, is we have decent balance. We don't necessarily have one guy that's going to always lead us in scoring like, you know, maybe has been the case some years. So I do think we have a fairly balanced offensive attack. And so I think that hopefully from night to night can make us tough to defend and, you know, lets us pick each other up if one guy maybe isn't having a great night.
Let's bring in Larry Hazer for some questions and comments. Larry?
You talk about inexperience coming into your team this season. Changing any way as to your style of coaching now with this, or are you?
Well, you know, I think you have to try to be patient.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, sometimes that's something that, you know, I'll admit, I sometimes forget that some of these guys, maybe it's their first varsity action. You have to try to be patient, recognize that it is a process, you know. But I also think you're not doing them any favors by being them and, you know, taking it too easy. You know, they need to be pushed, and I think any good athlete wants to be pushed. And so, you know, I think it's just finding that right balance.
Anything that you're changing now as far as your coaching philosophy with the new set of players in there, or?
Yeah, you know, I think this year probably defensively we've changed things a little bit. Years when we've had a little more size, we've played some zone. And this year, you know, we started out the year playing a little man. We played that through the summer, and I think that we're being defensively maybe a little more diverse this year, trying some different things and maybe being willing to go to some new things more quickly than we have been in the past.
The rebounding aspect, is that